Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. It is markets in the morning. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Welcome to Markets in the Morning. Today is Monday, December 11th, 2023. This is Markets in the Morning, where we take a look at the price action or the red action over here in the cryptocurrency market. We take a peek over there at the stock market as the stock market gets set to open in the next minute. Take a peek over there, of course, at the United States dollar currency index along with gold to see how we're doing, along with the altcoins and all that good, glorious stuff as we have a liquidation that took place overnight. And then we'll take a peek over there at any type of financial news and any type of crypto news as we kick off our week. So not only do we have volatility happening over here in the crypto market as we saw a leverage flush. Congratulations to all the people who decided to margin long, enter into becoming a margin player and a leverage player. They got a taste of what it's really like last night as liquidations got crazy. We had over $350 million of liquidations take place in the last 12 hours. Most of that really taking place within a matter of a few minutes. About $250 million of it was within like 5 minutes. This week, we do have FOMC. So we also even have some economic stuff that's going to be going on this week. On Wednesday, the Fed will come out and announce what's going to be the decision on interest rates. Of course, everybody does have it priced in that they will be paused, but looking forward to that forward guidance. And then tomorrow we'll get CPI figures as well. So CPI on inflation. We'll talk about that stuff. Of course, we already have 1,500 people tuned in here within the first minute of it being live. I wonder why. Maybe because there's volatility here in the crypto market. But Bitcoin sits up here at $41,846 as the United States stock market kicks open. And even the stock market kicks open over there in the red, right? We have red. We're looking red. I'm just trying to peek over here on my phone at the same time. Looks like a mix. Okay. Dow is green, S&P and NASDAQ slight red. Okay. There we go. Bitcoin sits at 41,895. Where is it? Do I still have that screen open? There it is. As we had, let's look at the last 12 hours. Where are you? 12 hours. That's not correct. Okay, well, 403 million in the last, because it was a little bit over 12 hours ago that it happened. $403 million in liquidations take place last night as Bitcoin flushes its way back down to $40,700. Still continuing just this stuff right in here. As you guys know, I've been recording a video all morning, of course. I knew you guys would probably be more interested in stuff, so I skipped my morning workout to get a video to get it started to record. We've been talking a lot about this price action and then this price level of where Bitcoin sits currently at right now. One way to take a look at it is more so like that, right? Bitcoin's gotten back into those April levels. So seeing some struggling happening in here. We know we're getting very close to being back into retracement levels. We've even crossed over the 50% retracement level in here for Bitcoin. So we've definitely reached into retracement levels for Bitcoin. Big pullback. I'm recording all about this, talking all about the different things that we've been talking about, of course, 2020, then you've got, 2016 and all that good gravy happening in there. And the complications of, which one could be in play in here. But of course, like last week, I was telling you guys, you know what? This is where I'm going to start taking some Bitcoin off the table. It's just not that of that much interest to me to be chasing all the way up in here with the full bag. We've gotten up. Now it's gotten up 190% off of the lows from the peaks that we've already seen to getting up into the retracements. There's only 14% left to chase in there. It's not that much interest in me. For me, so the big question, of course, comes into play of, what about the altcoin market? And that, this is still my optimism. Like my Bitcoin view is just meh, whatever. If it gets rejected in here or if it goes into all-time highs from here, it's meh. The big play for me on Bitcoin was getting back into retracement levels. The bigger play I see remaining left in this market now is to get the altcoin market up. And so I've been talking about this for the last weeks. My thoughts are we'll get back up in here. There's probably gonna be a slam back down that ends up happening in here. But the move that we saw happen in here, so in the video today, we'll talk all about the different complications of what's happening here for Bitcoin. But it shouldn't be any surprise just where we're at. We're at April of 2022. This is the level that like all altcoins have struggled at. This is where Litecoin has struggled at. This is where Stellar Lumens has struggled at. This is where Chainlink has struggled at. This is where Matic. The list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. Everybody has struggled here at April of 2022. And so we still haven't gotten our altcoin market to get up in there. And that's going to be my thoughts. And I'm going to talk about the different scenarios of Bitcoin struggling here. Or, there's a lot, or, of course, and that would be in this type of circumstance too. Of course, there's always still the gloom and doom out there. But if we just kind of play around with these two scenarios in here, that you're still just following 2016, right? Even in that long thread, that long tweet I put out where I'm like, look, this is where I'm taking some Bitcoin off the table. I think even in the most bullish of circumstances, we'll probably end up seeing $30,000 to $32,000 again at some point. Still not entirely convinced that is even it. It's actually pretty normal to have these types of moves happen in here for Bitcoin up at these levels. So, we'll talk all about that in the video. I think the thing more interesting to pay attention to is just actually how did the altcoin market respond to all of this? And it actually responded pretty decent. It was all a big leverage flush. So that's kind of like what you want to see. Slower grinds are the things that are scary. It's better actually when we just have it all happen kind of all at once. And the levels that it fell back to were quite interesting. You can see that Ethereum's was really a slam back to the breakout level. So it was actually a perfect pullback and slam back down. The same thing goes over here for others. It's really just a slam back down into a back test. So last week was all a big breakout. Start this week with a big wham, hit back down in here. So nothing really to say, oh no, everything really fell apart. Really just kind of a back test happening in here. And sometimes it's better for these things to happen from lower levels than to head way up higher and happen in here. But I hope anybody who's decided that I'm going to start playing with leverage now, I'm going to start playing with margin, maybe too late. Unfortunately, that's usually how it is. We all get lured in by it when prices are a lot higher, that, hey, look at these people who are making all this money, and then you end up being the one you lose everything. So on this channel, I always say I do not endorse or support anybody using leverage, because this is exactly what happens. They end up losing everything. And it's not like, the people in crypto who lost 5% in a move or something like that. Well, that's just normal volatility that happens in here. When you lose 100%, very hard to come back from that. And that's what leverage ends up doing. But okay, let's look over at the stock market as we get kicked open. We actually have upward action over here in the Dow. We're up 61 points with the Dow Jones being open. We're up a quarter of a point over here in the NASDAQ. Let's call that flat. I'd call it, we call it slight down for the S&P, down 7 points, but the Dow is up 65 points. So this is one thing we'll talk about in here too when I'm putting out the video today. Of course, you've got all this stuff where the price action is just really the same, and it's one thing to say price action looks the same of like it did back in 2020. It's another to live through it and breathe through it to get to this actual moment, in which we have on this channel, right? We go through all this stuff happening in here, and I'm explaining to everybody as we go through this. It's here in Markets in the Morning, spicy backer, right? We're not going to 12K. We're not going to 23K, 20K, 16K. That stuff's not going to happen because we've been and lived through this before. This is where retail just gets completely shook out of the market. And in 2020, when this happened, I even said, like, the thing we'll be looking for is for people screaming manipulation, which I was surprised it didn't actually end up happening in here, that people weren't screaming manipulation. But then as time set on, the market participant behavior became identical again. It became that we're going lower, and then we work our way out of here and they get left behind. I put out the tweet. I say, hey, look, I think this market's going to leave people behind in leave the bears behind in epic fashion, because we've had it happen before, and sure enough, it did. So is this behavior any different from this? It'd be hard pressed to say that it is at this point. It still is just kind of acting pretty similar. In addition, like we talked about last week, it took getting through that level for the altcoin market to be able to break out, and the altcoin market is still sitting higher than it was in there. So even though Bitcoin has pulled back, there is a divergence of the altcoin market still being higher. We saw this type of stuff happen back in 2020, where there's a pretty decent sized pullback, and then there's one more really big push that happened up there in the altcoin market. So I'm still looking for that. Either circumstance of whether Bitcoin goes to an all-time high, Bitcoin rejects in here. Either way, I still think there's a bigger move to still take place over here in the altcoin market that I'm waiting on personally. And to see these types of these types of throwbacks happen in here and the levels that they hold back on, and especially with liquidations, because if you watched it live last night, which of course I always do, I always tend to catch things when they end up happening. Uh, it always has that same feel to it when you see the liquidation moment actually happening. We're just like, holy crud. You see everything with 15, 20% in the red all of a sudden, all at once. That's where it just gets massively flushed out. And then, of course, it's after that moment, after that flush happens, people become bearish. And if anything, like that's a better sign than just the slow grind. The big fat liquidations are usually the exhaustive things. So those are typically better signs to see, and really nothing too out of line happening in here. So things look okay. The bigger thing is still that big question everybody has. Last week, it's like, hey, we're going to all-time high. It's never going to stop. Bitcoin, it's never going to end. We're going to the moon. And then this happens. And then all the content creators on Twitter, well, see, pullbacks should be expected. They're just a normal thing that ends up happening. It's like, dude, that's not what you were last week. It was FOMO riddance, man. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, this is the danger zone for Bitcoin. I'll talk all about it in the videos. There shouldn't be any surprise that we're in here, and this is the areas we're having some resistances at. The thing now we're going to want to watch and see is, can it build some type of decent support structure happening in here for Bitcoin? It's too early to tell after you get a liquidation like that in these levels. For me, Bitcoin is of zero interest to me at this point. It was of a lot of interest to me all the way up in here. Now it's really not. The big thing for Bitcoin, right? So the big complication in here is, one, of course, the gloom and doom, but also like 2016, right? And if 2016 is your case, which it has followed for 3 years, 2014 through 2016, every peak, every breakout, every move up, how high did Bitcoin get in here before it ended up throwing all the way back? And it ended up going up to the 618 Fibonacci retracement. So 618 Fibonacci retracement for Bitcoin, for that, it's like $48,500. Then it threw itself all the way back, right? So that would be like your identical move. I don't know if it's going to do that, but I'm showing you what it would have been. However, in this circumstance right here, like let's go back and if you kind of relive in 2020 and you think, all right, if this thing can shift its way up, it's going to stall out here for quite a while and then eventually break off into all-time high. What was the element that happened in there? What was the mandatory thing that we always talk about? It's the stock market. It needed the stock market. Stock market was the thing that gave it the ability to be able to go on and do that. So I talked about that in today's video. We can live through that here right now, right? This is what we're talking about. All right, so here you are, right? This is this moment that we're pointing to right over here, right? That's this guy right there. I'll put a dot just so we all know. There you go. That's like your same chart right down here. Right, goes sideways, and then finally it breaks off and it goes running, right? So what happens in here, right? We get the stock market trying to go, right? Stock market's in this big, long A, B, C thing happening in here while we're all throughout here, right? And then it goes breaking off into all-time highs, right? So what do we have happening in here right now? You got... There you go. You got the stock market getting awfully close to there, right? So it's an intriguing thing to see happening for Bitcoin as it gets back here. But so if you're like in camp, Bitcoin go to all-time high, you probably need that thing to go, and you're getting awfully close to it. And the thing that we just talked about is we talked about, hey, look, there was this ABC style thing that happened in here. I brought this up a couple of weeks ago, and that, we actually have that same element that's been happening in here right now with the NDXT, right? The NASDAQ 100 technology sector, ABCs, and then comes up here and breaks its way on out. That's exactly what we just showed over there in the Dow. So you have elements in here to like give support to something like this happening, but you are in all these different complications of, you still have continued to follow 2016 And this particular price level that you're at right now with Bitcoin is the problem child for almost every asset in the market this April of 2022. And they've all had big problems. And there we can pull a couple of them up real quick. Bitcoin Cash, April of 2022. Doge, April of 2022. Chainlink, April of 2022. Litecoin, April of 2022. Matic, April of 2022. Stellar Lumens, April of 2022. So this is the problem child for the market currently right now in April of 2022. I was able to get you back up in here. It's going to be wishy-washy as we sit here at these levels, right? So don't forget, people asked me all last week, do you think is your opinion going to change? Do you think we're going to go to an all-time high, right? When you get green candles, everybody wants to think things will change. You get red candles, now is it gloom and doom? Look at this. We have 3,000 people in the chat here in the first 15 minutes of it. Obviously, there becomes a whole lot more concern and worry when you see a big price action like that end up happening. In the end, for Bitcoin, this is a challenge level. But the things that still are theirs, whether or not Bitcoin does go into an all-time high, whether or not Bitcoin doesn't have anything much left in it at all, the bigger thing that is interesting is the altcoin market. And I'm still going to stay with that. And that the move that we saw happen in here for the altcoin market caps and the things that we saw happen for things like Ethereum, these were not out of the norm. These were throwback back tests. So I think these things were okay. The bigger mystery, in my thoughts, are going to be Bitcoin and the longer trend of Bitcoin and the longer trend of the altcoin market. But I think that the short term or medium term, let's call it medium term, the medium term interest is still, you have Bitcoin right up here, right? And that there's still catching up that's still at play. And it's very common to see that even when Bitcoin gets to its I'm running out of juice, I'm running out of steam moment, that's where people realize, wait a minute, there's not much more to chase left in this thing. And then they start degening, right? And then where do they degen? This guy. So I still think that this is the place of interest, even with all the complications that are there for Bitcoin. And even in here, there was still another big move up. So even if Bitcoin is some monster, right? Like either way, it doesn't matter to me. Like if Bitcoin is stalling out here and topping, the interest is still the altcoin market. And even if Bitcoin is just stalling and going into new all-time highs, it doesn't matter to me because the interest is still the altcoin market. Because from this point in 2020, like let's just say we're repeating something like that, the altcoin market outperformed Bitcoin from this particular moment in time 4-1. So that's my thoughts, right? So either I'm looking for like a 4-1 outperformance of the altcoin market, or a big move back up into the retracement levels for a catch-up play over here in the altcoin market still. But Bitcoin, as you could see, finding some struggling here where everything else has found the struggles at. So, shouldn't be a surprise because we talked about all this stuff last week. And last week I'd mentioned I'd begun letting go of my Bitcoin from FTX and all that stuff. Spent a year and a half into it. I get it. All of retail comes piling in and finally becomes convicted of Bitcoin at the exact same time. Doesn't matter if you say concerns or anything like that. They don't believe it until one red comes up, and that's not even red, man. I mean, it's still $42,000. It's pretty impressive for what has happened. But the things to keep in mind is that if the red day ever does come, like how aggressive it was in 2016. Whoa. So that's always in the back of my mind for that, and just keep that in mind for Bitcoin. I got it. And the problem is, right, it's the thing that is disappointing about stuff like this. First of all, I don't trade on leverage, and all of you guys know in here that I say that I don't endorse trading on leverage because it is the easiest way to 100% lose all your money. It's one thing to get slaughtered by the market. It's another thing to just have a move like what happened last night wipe you out entirely. And I promise you, guarantee it, there are people who lost everything they have last night. Guarantee it. People watch people, when it's up only, prices are moving up and people are showing off their gains. They do the same thing. They follow along those footsteps of 10x leverage, 20x leverage, 5x, whatever it is. And it just takes that little move right there, that $3,000 move wipes out their whole account. So just remember, it's not all glory and fun. Trading on leverage, it can wipe out everything in a matter of a few seconds. And that's just, yeah, I wish we didn't have that here, but we do. All right, there you go. So anyway, there you go. There's your big fat scary move for Bitcoin after upward grinding. Again, still just nothing really super alarming yet. And the positive thing about that move last night is it definitely was a liquidation event. And so liquidation events have a better shot at marking a low, at least for now. I would be hard pressed to believe that we are going to go any lower than what we saw last night today. I would be hard pressed to see us go any lower than what we saw with how much liquidations took place there. That's a lot. $400 million is a lot. I'd have to go look back to see when is the last time we did 400 million. I think it's been a while. I don't think we did any of that in here, any $400 million liquidation. So pretty good for now, at least. The bigger challenges, of course, are just where we're at, right? And I think I've tried to express that as much as I possibly can. That up in here, this is the kind of stuff. This is where it's going to get wishy-washy here, guys, on Bitcoin. If you're a big Bitcoiner, right? Year and a half going back to retracements. I'm showing you all the different levels of concerns. The concerns started at 38K. Anything up in between 38 to 52, it's just all washy, all sketchy McGee in here for Bitcoin at this point. But the nice thing about the altcoin market, like we said, this is a throwback, right? So that's okay. Ethereum, perfect throwback. Others, I already lose you. There you go. A nice throwback. Nothing out of the norm happening in here. We got through the first retracement last week. Now we've thrown back to it. Liquidation, massive liquidation to find a floor on top of it. Seems fine to me. So there you go. As for XRP, just can't catch a break. Why? It's in the dumb money zone, man. It just won't do anything. So we still just have to sit here and wait on it. Now, the thing is, I posted about this last week. In this moment, right in here, heading up into this, in 2020, if we go do something like that, this was the big moment, the big shining moment for XRP. I posted about this over there on Twitter over the weekend. So that's what I'll be keeping my eyes on as we head into this week. If we vamp back up and the altcoin market goes, this was the moment for XRP. This is where all elements were met. This is where Bitcoin up, altcoin market up. Sorry for all your narratives out there and conspiracy theories that you guys love. This is the stuff that mattered for XRP to be able to move its way up. So that's what I am cheering for this week, to see some recovery in the altcoin market, and that this was, out of all conditions that happened in here, for XRP to have that big move. Let me pull it up. That one right there. Again, this is SEC, right? So this is, let's see. This is Bitcoin breaking off into new all-time high. This is SEC saying you're not going to participate. So we don't know the reality of what would have happened right in here, because the rest of the altcoin market did go with Bitcoin at that time. So we're going to take that off just to kind of like, we don't know. Okay. So we're really just paying attention to this guy right in here. It was this moment right in here. Altcoin market going, XRP goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, right? And like I always say on here, you're wanting XRP to scratch your back. You're wanting XRP to give you a warm glass of milk and give you a hug and cuddles. It's not going to do it. Right? This is the 22.5-cent days. There's a very selective group of people in here who are around during the 22.5-cent days. That's what this is. Or if you've heard us talk about it, that's what this was. Then this was the moment where it finally broke out and went. And this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 surge of 5-day surge of 180%. And that's really how this price chart tends to react at all times. It just kind of tortures you, and then it gives you a few days of ripping and roaring. So we'll be keeping our eyes out for that to see if we do get our normal to have a pullback in here. But then if XRP goes. And if XRP does go in here, what are the things that we've talked about on whether or not this is a full-blown bull run or if this is actually just the completion of wave D, right? So wave D would be A, B, C, D, and then you go into E, which is typically a contracting triangle, which is like A, B, C, D, E again. It's like one of these, but in much smaller form in here. If this is just wave D, is that, XRP may be the last one in the list. The XRP may be the thing that would be a confluence. So like, let's say we're seeing others move up in here. We're seeing others get near the retracement levels, and then at the exact same time, XRP is going as well. XRP has a tendency to mark the ends. It even marked the peak of Bitcoin back in 2021. XRP's peak was on April 14th. Bitcoin's peak and Coinbase's IPO were there on April 14th of 2021. So we'll keep those things in mind. Of course, there's literally no way to know or guarantee that will be the case, but it's like one of those things that I've kept in the back of my mind to think about, that if it is one of those last things to go in here, and if it is like a 5-day surge that happens or something like that, and if we're already seeing euphoria in the market, we're already seeing excitement in the market, and then that thing shows up at just that time, to think, hey, this might not be the big move happening in here. This might be the completion of that last wave to then consolidate, like we've also talked about over here, to consolidate, right? And then later look for something bigger to come in months from now. So otherwise, leverage flush happened overnight. Nothing insane price-wise. Like we didn't go losing a ton of stuff. You saw things like others just do a normal throwback, and we saw Ethereum do a normal throwback. So nothing crazy. I think the thing that just happens is that retail has a tendency to FOMO tops. And the way to think of that it actually happened is reflect back to 1 week ago. And I know we get so hard to remember these things sometimes, but do you remember 1 week ago when we're talking about this stuff in here? And at that moment, was this Monday? This is Tuesday. Do you remember how many people were screaming at the altcoin market? Why isn't the altcoin market doing anything? And Bitcoiners are all celebrating on Twitter that they're the champs, and the altcoin market hadn't left yet. And I think what you had happen is you probably had a lot of people capitulate from altcoins into Bitcoin. And so I'm posting this. I'm like, hey, like in the next couple of days, this is the thing that we saw to get the market moving. And I think we saw a lot of capitulation into Bitcoin happen in there. And then they probably washing machine themselves in here, and then, right? So anybody who like sat tight, you're doing all right. But the people who did like at the practically the capitulation point of the divergence, right? So we talked about divergences happening. The capitulation point of the divergence probably got themselves wrong-footed twice in here. And so that's probably why we have 3,200 people in here. Normally markets in the morning is like 1,800 to 2,000. Welcome all of the faces that haven't been here in a while. But yeah, I don't think anything's crazy happening in here. And I think Bitcoin is a difficult read because of these elements that we do talk about in here. But so in that circumstance, what I try to do is I try to look to other places in the market to see if they can tell me a story. And in the other places in the market, what I see is throwbacks. I see back tests happening in things like Ethereum, and back tests happening over here in market caps. So I don't think there was anything actually tragic that ended up happening in there. And the fact that we had such a massive liquidation is a good thing for a low to get set in there. So, I don't think there's anything too crazy. So I think what we'll do now is we'll start looking forward to like the rest of the week, right? So the rest of the week is going to be like, so a chance for other volatility to show up in here, because now we are in FOMC week. We talked about this last week. We're like, hey, like it's kind of next week to look forward to for like volatility, not even just because some random liquidation would show up overnight, right? boom, whack, it happens in a couple of minutes. But now we like look more towards like macro stuff, right? And looking more towards like stock market things and FOMC stuff and things like that. So tomorrow we're going to get CPI, right? First, let's do this, right? So on Wednesday, we're going to have the FOMC meeting. We're going to live stream that here. We put the Bitcoin price chart up on the screen. We put the Dow Jones Industrial Average up on the screen, and we watch everything happen live. And that's going to be at 2 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. So we live stream that. It's usually a pretty big live stream like this, like 3,000 people in here. That's about the norm of what we end up having during those ones. And we will just watch it all. And so I come on here 5 minutes before the rate decision gets released and the notes get released. And we watch how the market reacts live to the rate decision. Currently, the expectation is that they will be paused again, so that we are still in our pause period for the market. Historically, being in the pause is good for the markets. Once those cuts come, that's where things can get a little bit complicated. In the first cut, second cut, it's possible that the market can rally off of that news, but it's typically a bad sign long term for the market. So, as long as we're in pause, things seem to be okay. So we'll listen to what he says tomorrow. Right now, the market has it really priced in that we don't really have cuts priced in till maybe March. They put it at a 40% probability that we'll have a cut. And then by May, they've got it at about a 75% chance that we have started cutting. And then by June, they've got it at a 91% probability that we are cutting. So we'll see what the Fed says, but pausing has typically been okay. Now, tomorrow, we're going to be getting CPI figures, right? So currently, the year-over-year inflation figure is at 3.2%. Our last reading was a 0.0% month-over-month for inflation. The forecast for tomorrow is another 0.0% year-over-year. If we beat it, and if we see negative 0.1%, okay, which we did beat it last month. If we beat it this month and get negative 0.1%, there is a chance that CPI comes in at 2.9% year over year. And that our year over year inflation figure will have a 2 on the front of it. There is a chance that happens tomorrow. So be ready, right? That will happen 1 hour before markets in the morning starts. So I would expect markets in the morning tomorrow when we come on, there should be something going on in the market. Either a big flush in the stock market or a big rip in the stock market is what I would think. And I guess if we just meet expectations, maybe not. But it could be interesting if we end up beating. So we'll see that tomorrow. And so that's going to be the last economic data print that I think that we're going to get before the Fed comes out with their decision. So prepare tomorrow that we have CPI. That can be a volatility factor for markets. And then on Wednesday, when the Fed speaks, it can be a volatility factor. And typically even the day after we do see volatility. So this week will just probably be volatile. And doesn't necessarily mean that the market reverses or the market breaks out. It just means it's volatile. And so kind of preparing for that type of volatility to happen this week in either direction. But we will live stream that 1:55 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. So that is actually about, if you're used to whatever time markets in the morning starts for you, it's about 4.5 hours after that. So like if it was today, like right now, it'd be like 4 hours from right now. So wherever you live, mark that. That's 2 p.m. Eastern, right? Yeah, 4 hours from right now. All right. So there you go. Big move over there in a liquidation event that took place over there in the cryptocurrency market shortly after the new week began, with over $400 million in liquidations happening. Over 350 million of that being people who were leverage longing the market. As for things like Ethereum and things like the altcoin market cap, these appear to have just been throwback back tests that happened in here after last week's breakout of the first Fibonacci retracement level for others. As for the stock market, opened up slightly green. S&P really just flat. Holy cow. NASDAQ up 0.33%, the Dow up 0.09%. Winners of the day are Netflix, Caterpillar, and Ford. Losers of the morning are Coinbase, Meta, and ARK. Heading over to the dollar and to precious metals. You can see the DXY sits at 104 this morning. So still just sitting right back there at that level right there. 104.15. And then gold still slaughter city for gold and precious metals, which positive sign for the equity market, right? After attempting to break out overnight, I don't even think it was still in an all-time high by the time the market opened in the morning. So down to $1,985 over here for gold. A sigh of relief for equity bulls happening over here. So there you go. Otherwise, do we have everything? I think we've covered everything. The only thing we have left is news. So liquidation happening over there in the market. $350 million of long liquidations take place. Throwbacks for Ethereum, throwbacks for altcoin market, stock market, mixed morning over here as the market awaits CPI prints tomorrow, inflation figures for tomorrow. Will we finally have a year-over-year inflation figure with a 2 on the front of it? And then the Federal Reserve on Wednesday, guys. So we kind of look at this, and this clock ticks down. Like in the beginning, it's like 40 days. And as you can see, as we get closer and closer and closer, this is where the market gets a little bit more sketchier and sketchier and sketchier as we get to it. And then it's still sketchy for a day or two after that. And then it pretty much has digested all of the news that it needs. So what do we spent the last couple of weeks kind of speculating what the Fed's going to do? Now it's no longer speculation time. Now it's everybody's like, okay, well, buckle up, get ready for whatever really is going to happen. But the market has it priced in, again, expecting a pause, right? And it's one thing for this thing to be like 60% probability of a pause, 40% probability of a hike, or 60%, 40% of a cut. 98%, the Fed has not deviated off of what the market has completely priced in. And so that's what we have is that. So get ready for that. That's our big thing. So liquidation overnight, throwbacks happening over there on Ethereum and on the altcoin market. Get ready for CPI tomorrow. Maybe we'll have a 2 at the front of the year-over-year inflation. And then get ready for FOMC on Wednesday. So Wednesday's a pretty busy day. Otherwise, guys, let's go ahead and jump into news. Okay. Oil stuff, Macy's, buyout offer. Criminals make millions by counterfeiting drugs. Okay. Rate cuts can't come fast enough for debt-strapped companies. Stocks make cautious start to event-packed week. Strategist who called the 2023 rally sees S&P at 5,200 next year. A record highs in the cards for U.S. stocks in 2024. Bloomberg's telling you people. Dalio leads billionaire charge to latest wealth haven. Billionaire Steve Cohen pushes 0.72 deeper into macro trading. Occidental, yeah. Apple offers reward to musicians. Oh my gosh, news. Yeah. Okay. Google policy allows ads for U.S. crypto trusts. Yeah. So it looks like crypto trusts will be able to advertise here pretty soon. 300 million crypto long liquidations. $300 million in crypto long liquidations. 5 things to know in Bitcoin this week. Binance CZ must stay in the United States. BRC20 tokens are presenting new opportunities for Bitcoin buyers, celeb NFTs, and cringy ads. Bitcoin wipes out nearly a week of gains in 20 minutes, falling under 41K. So that's the thing, though. That's like, and hopefully you guys have realized that too. That historically, like recently, has been a good thing when you have like the market doesn't change, right? 3,000 people being in here, kind of worried about it. And I love you guys. If you don't tune in often, you're just tuning in right now because you're like, hey, what's going on? You need to tune in. It's a good sign to see this many people show up all at once. It means there was an extreme event that happened in the market. And extremes usually mean exhaustion, right? So a big move like that means more worry and concern rather than, hey, I'm going to buy the dip. Instead, I'm scared. But, you know, when we have these liquidations, they tend to mark bottoms more often than not. And so, like, here's a liquidation, right? But still, it just chills there. And I don't think we're like that, guys. I'm not sitting here saying we're going to stay low and slow for 3 months. But you know, we get down to the lows, and that's the extreme of the event. That's where most of the wipeout ends up happening in there. And I think we can just see that over there on Ethereum too, and you can see it in the market. But yeah, okay. Bitcoin wipes out nearly a week of gains in 20 minutes. And that's the other thing. When it happens that fast, it's not, the great thing about it is it's not panic selling. It's not exiting of the market. It's not big players selling and doing some damage. It's a liquidation event. So if you don't understand what a liquidation event is, it's stop loss triggering, right? So people are buying the climb up and they're placing their stop losses under there. And then one of them gets triggered, then the next gets triggered, and the next gets triggered, and the next gets triggered. And then to add on top of it, you have people who are margin longing it, who are like, I'm going to buy this on 10x leverage, so I only have $100, right? And I want to buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, right? And so they can only afford for the price to go so far before the exchange liquidates them entirely. And what you get is you get a lot of that happening. People get overly confident and cocky and that they can't lose. They can only win. They look around, they see everybody else winning. I want to do that too. And they just start leverage long. It's a mix of multiple things, a mix of like watching other people do it and thinking that they're going to do it too. And then it's also a mix of people trying to make up for lost time. You know, like we've just spent all this time with people screaming for 12K, a long, long time of it. And then when price got up last Tuesday, like we were talking about, when price was right here, it's funny because how quick sentiment changes. And I talk about that. Like watching sentiment is so important in this market because I don't even know what you would describe us as the retail sentiment, like how a psychologist would describe the insanity of the herd, because it will go from just pessimistic, toxic hatred and depression to YOLO excitement, extreme risk taking, insanity, right back to pessimism, toxicity, worry. And it can do it like worse than worse than like a clinically like diagnosed person. That's how the whole crowd can react. So it's hard to even reflect on that because of how everybody's probably feeling today. That last week with Bitcoin, it was like, it's never going to stop. It's never going to stop. My altcoins are never going to go up, right here, right? My altcoins are never going to go up because Bitcoin's the one. All those Bitcoiners on Twitter, they're right. I don't know where I'm going with that. But yeah. All right. Let's move on. Bitcoin, Ether, and major altcoins in deep red. Bitcoin and Ether lead in liquidation heat map with over 335 million in wrecked positions. I know it's not funny to say wrecked, but it's just funny how here's how the media is trying to say wrecked. All right. Anyway, there you go. Big moves happening overnight, happened very quickly, right? So this wasn't like a couple of sellers being like, oh no, it's time to be scared. This is a lot of triggering. This is a lot of automatic selling and pushing to the brink of exhaustion on leverage. So high risk leverage players and traders just got themselves knocked out of the market. So that's the thing that you will always see people posting their W's over there on Twitter, but you're never going to see people posting you've been liquidated screenshots over there. So we always try to think, oh, these guys are just so epic and so great. You're not going to see anybody posting over there that they just got completely hammered and lost everything. But that did happen, guys. Lots of leverage players just lost everything that they have in moments like that. So keep that in mind because you don't get that portrayed to you on Twitter. That is what happens. So, all right, there you go. Throwbacks on Ethereum, throwbacks in the altcoin market. Stock market, how are you doing now? Stock market, slight green over here to start the day off, but we know we have historically volatile events this week. This is typically out of every month and a half, we have 1 week that's like historically volatile due to like the Fed and economic data. This is that week, so we'll deal with that as the week goes on. We'll be here every day. And now we just wait for this market to find some supportive bouncing action happening in here. Otherwise, that seems to be a good enough flush that happened last night. So there you have it. Keep your eyes out for a video about an hour after the live stream is over. We're going to dive much more deeper into this stuff, all this gravy, and just talk about this stuff and more with the altcoin market. So this is kind of just like a brief brief covering here in markets in the morning to really just kind of show you, hey, these look like back tests that happened in here. These were liquidations. Liquidations typically mark exhaustions. And I think that's about it, right? I don't really know how much more you want to say about it. And, for those who are longing Bitcoin up in here, you got bigger kahunas than me. Well, yeah, I'll do it down here. Right? I don't know if you call that kahunas. I don't think you do. The kahunas are if you do it down here. This might be insanity. It might be more insanity to do it here. Kahunas here, insanity here. I think that's more appropriate. All right, let's go ahead and hop into the chat, you guys. So keep your eyes out for volatility this week with macroeconomic data and the FOMC. But it does look like that was a liquidation event happening over there in crypto, and that there seems to be backtest levels that we went and slammed ourselves into. And hey, it looks like we confirmed them pretty well. So good deal. All right, hopping into chat. Creative Vit. Can you look into INJ on invert scale? It does look like it's in the final wave 7 of BCB crashing. Sure. That's one I don't want to cover because I do believe content creators have been paid for that one. It's one I don't like. Sorry, man. Jonas Fugalis gifted 1 BCB membership. My brother, thank you very much. I appreciate it, man. Spag says, if you can't handle the heat, stay out of the kitchen. Welcome to the Thunderdome. Thank you, Spags. Crypto Upser gifted 5 BCB memberships. Thank you very much. What a way to kick off a Monday. Thank you. Luck, hey, BC, huge fan. Been watching you for years. Bitcoin in 2017. Can Gala hit 702 retracement just like Blaze Engine has TRP? Yeah, so there's a consistency in the ones that are doing that. I don't know, man. I don't know. I consider all altcoins in the exact same boat right now, but you also got to be very careful on ones. I don't know anything about Gala. Right, I'm looking at the chart off the screen. I don't see anything special about it that's different from any other chart that would get me all excited about it. And so, and I don't know if there's content creators pushing these to you. You mentioned a couple in there that are content creator coins. I don't know this for a fact, but TRB, one of those ones that's performed very well, from my understanding, that the circulating supply is isolated, like 95% of that is in the hands of 2 or 3 people. INJ, people who have notoriously been paid money to shill coins have shilled that one. So I don't know. So, and like these are coins that don't show up in like high development activity data, right? And so I avoid, like, that's just like lessons I've learned over the years, right? Like some stuff is pump and dumps, right? And you don't know. And like, so that's just kind of stuff I'm not touching. Gala. Not accusing it of that, but what I'm looking at is a chart that doesn't look anything like it has any additional strength or movement beyond what other things in the market are doing. Delkansky. But since you did name other coins that are shilled by content creators in there, I'd be careful if that one is for you too. Delkansky with a super chat says, super sticker said, keep it up. Thank you, brother. JJ Melch gifted 5 BCB memberships. Thank you, sir. Hot Tub Brian says, don't lurk. Hit the like, y'all. Buy a hot tub too. Dude, we're at 1,200 likes already at 48 minutes into this. You guys are killing it. Luck says, I always watch the Bitcoin pairs too. Thoughts? Yeah, but have you tried doing any TA on? You're not going to have any luck. Very little luck. The only times I find that using the Bitcoin pairings are beneficial is when the market's rallying to the upside. A lot of times you do see them like react in retracement levels, but when doing it otherwise, it's after all these years, not a whole lot. JR Flight 10. Thoughts on OP? Note April 2022 to reference back to. Yeah, you're going to have that struggle with any of these that are like that, right? If they're fairly new coins, right? So OP Optimism is a layer 2. I own some, but of course price is already elevated now. Let's see where you are in this little range retracement. You're getting up there, right? It's just whether or not it's going to go into breakout in here. Like OP has a very high inflationary supply. It's very common for new coins to have that. So like if you looked at, do we get the market cap of OP? You do. Market cap way up, but you're dealing with high inflation, right? So that's why the price chart is not a new all-time high. But that's really just what happens when you have brand new coins. So picking heights, very difficult on stuff that is brand new. Very difficult because you don't have a whole lot of reference points to go back to. So these are kind of those things for me. I'm paying way more attention to the whole market as a whole on things like this, to where like if these things get to significant levels and there's confluence of other things, that I just have to basket it together and be like, all right, that's it too. But yeah, when you're playing with stuff like that, when you're playing with stuff that isn't that old, right? How long has it been around? A year and a half? You don't have that much to go off of. Mitman, you nailed it on Friday. I know you're my UPS guy. I wanted to respond, but I was too far behind and I couldn't. Now back in the darkness I go. Appreciate you. Man, thank you, brother. John Trades. I'm glad you heard it. And I'm glad I remembered the name right. I thought I did. John Trades. New member. Welcome, brother. Lord Hydromega. Last week you mentioned a trip to a developer conference where a dev team would not answer your questions beyond the marketing promo material. Which one was that? Thanks. That was Casper. LP. Thank you, Lord. Hydromage. LP says, hey, BCB, Ethereum Classic ETH looking for a breakout. Percentage-wise, Ethereum Classic outperformed ETH last cycle. Do you think that can repeat? I don't know. I doubt it. Right? Like, I doubt it. Just because Ethereum Classic's even taken more steps back, right, since then, right? So, like, just from development and abandonment and all that stuff, I really doubt it. Because like with Ethereum back then, like when you had stuff, so like when you go back to 2021 stuff too, and like, you know, who would pump in association with Ethereum, and it would be like Ethereum Classic. But now you have all these layer twos to go with it, right? You have Optimism, Arbitrum. I don't even know. There's so many of them now. What other ones are there? I'm drawing a blank. I don't know. You have several of them that can go with it. That I think there's already other coins to tie along with it. You know, the thing about it though, like, was when you did see Ethereum, like I wouldn't expect anything to come from Ethereum Classic unless if it's just retail masses doing what they typically do and mistaking Ethereum Classic for Ethereum. And like when we saw Ethereum break out here, I can't remember where it was. Was it here? Or was it back here? Let's just overlay Ethereum Classic on top. I guess it was here. Right? Here and here. Right? I feel like maybe it was back here. Yeah, November 9th and 10th. Yeah, there you go. All right, Ethereum Classic shoots up with Ethereum. All right, so it's moving like in tandem with Ethereum, right? The price just seems to kind of move in tandem. I think it's just, you know, mistaking. I mean, it's just way too close. And I get it. Most of the market does this. But, you know, like it's just mistaking. So, I mean, I think the Ethereum Classic bet is still just like kind of what it was in 2021. But the speculation of will it be as much as it was now that there's other things that also go with Ethereum, I don't know. But yeah, essentially betting that retail noobs do what they do. They buy Ethereum Classic instead of Ethereum. Hot Tub Brian says, BCB, you're the man. How's the large wallet selling Bitcoin chart looking? I don't know. Let's go look. I showed you guys this last week. Give me about 30 seconds to get it pulled up. So I'll talk about it while we're getting ready. So one of the things we noticed in the last cycle, in the peak of the market, was that the addresses with greater than 10 Bitcoin started distributing on the market before, while retail was having laser eyes and diamond hands, right? While retail was thinking, hey, we're real smart, we're early. They were very late. And the wallets with greater than 10 Bitcoin were distributing once Bitcoin had broken into the all-time high, and they sold all of their bags to the laser eyes and diamond hands crowd. They did not strongly reaccumulate this, and it was not until after that liquidation finally happened. So here's Luna and UST. Here is Celsius, Three Arrows Capital, and all BlockFi and all that stuff in here. And this is the moment where they decide to actually really started reaccumulating, right? So they're buying down here at the lows, as they tend to do. Hold on. Here, a little bit more zoomed in. As we can see, these guys, while they distributed on the top onto the laser eyes and diamond hands crowd, they really started accumulating for real right here at this moment right here. And this is where the 12Kers started. So the whole we're going to 12K stuff started right here. And they didn't buy it for 1 second. And then when FTX collapsed, they really started buying. Then this whole ride up, they've continued to buy and buy and buy. Until now. Right. So let me zoom this out a little bit more. Here we go. So as we could see, they were distributing, and they started distributing on the break of the all-time high and into excitement, right? So when people are getting excited, they're selling, and then laser eyes and diamond hands are dumping on them really hard. Then, all these collapses, this is where they finally really start to accumulate, and then the FTX collapse, they really accumulate it, and then they're still accumulating all the way up into here. But now in this moment, they are distributing. So these guys are selling Bitcoin onto the open market, while retail finally is capitulating on their 12K ideas. And so your question is, well, how are they doing right now? So maybe we can look at it really close to see. Not a lot has changed since last week. The trend of them continuing to sell is still intact, but we won't know how they reacted. So you can see this is over the weekend, right? They still were distributing here. They were selling the $44,000 to retail. But we don't know how they reacted to this moment right in here. If they've bought it, if they sold it, what they did, until, either today or tomorrow when this data gets updated. So we don't know right now how they've responded to this particular moment, but that trend still in play of them accumulating the whole bottom like crazy, continuing to accumulate this ride, and then they've begun distribution through here. We don't know how they reacted to this moment. We'll tune in to Markets in the Morning every day this week to see how the whales are doing. But thank you, Hot Tub Brian. Hope that answered, brother. Parakeet. Can you look at XRP 2021 bull fractal and bottom compared with current price? BCB? Wait, can you? Remember for 1 month. Can you look at the XRP 2021 bull fractal and compare it with current price? You got to be more broad, buddy. That is broad as can be. Right? So some things we've talked about in regards to like, so you say, can you look at bull fractal and compare it to now? I don't know how we're supposed to look at it now. I'd say the things that like, one, if we look at 2017 and that the liftoff that XRP had, it came back after doing something like this and really tested this level again. That'd be about 54 cents again before then really getting it going. Again, that's the idea of saying, hey, forget all of this SEC lawsuit stuff happened. This is what the market really did, right? That this is one big accumulation schematic that happened in here. And then what we just witnessed was we witnessed XRP finally escaping. That's how 2017 behaved. And it did come back down here to test these levels before it ended up rallying. So right now, that 54 cent level, pretty important right now to say, hey, that's an accumulation schematic and that we can get our way out of here. If we break through that level and like close days or close week candles underneath that level, it is very difficult to see any type of bullish behavior here for XRP. Very, very, very difficult. If we can't maintain 54 cents at this point. I'm really not sure what to look for in regards to with your question. Can we look at XRP 2021 bull fractal and compare it with the current price? I'm not sure where you're wanting to put it, unless if you're wanting to put it like this, but I just don't think that's like appropriate to do, you know. I just don't know how we would. You know, so like the things that would concern me in here is just that what we did up here, right? So what we did up here is this is a retrace back to the 618, pulls down, tries to get up again, fails, right? So if you looked at it like this method, what do we have? Back to the 618, tries to pull back up, fails, right? If this thing goes plowing back down in here, it'd be hard to see anything bullish for XRP because it's just structurally, what do you have? I mean, you have a long accumulation range of a year and a half, get above it, and then we just lose it again. Like, you know, there's something we don't want to see. I don't want to see. But as for like looking at comparing this, I just don't. I don't really see it on or either how to compare them. But welcome, man. Wheeze says, just want to say thank you, BCB. Oh, and everyone hit the like button. Best way to support the channel. Thank you, Wheeze. Kale, any thoughts on Blocktopia, Metaverse, and the block chart? Nope. No thoughts. Never heard of it. Risu says, what do you think about KSM Kusama? I don't have any thoughts on it. I haven't looked into it enough. Kim 589 gifted a BCB membership. Kim, thank you very much. And so did Tanvir gifted a BCB membership. Thank you very much. Kale Philly, what does this say? Kale Philly says, I'm seeing a clear BCB crashing structure on CFX since the top of the 4th of December. Do you see it too, or am I just imagining? Again, this is another one of those coins that is pushed on social media by content creators. Guys, like, if I see a bunch of content creators pushing stuff, I'm just not interested in it. And like, I always, like, I've seen some coins that are being pushed by content creators, and I challenge you to go. I've tried to show you guys sentiment. Again, I'm not sponsored by these guys. I don't make a penny by saying their name. Go check these coins that you're buying and go check their dev data. There are a couple of them that are straight up dead. Dead as a doornail that you guys are buying. That I'm watching you do out there on Twitter. Not saying CFX is, but it's one that is promoted, like, who ever heard of it prior to like the last 2 weeks, right? So I don't want to cover that coin, just in particular. I'm sorry. I just don't want to cover that particular coin. So, okay, there you go. I hope that you guys are doing well. I know it's a crazy day out there in the markets. You got Bitcoin at 42K. You had a liquidation event take place overnight. Fortunate thing out there is that we do see that things like Ethereum and things like others, these were back tests and they seem to be holding up pretty okay, right? The market has not gone lower than what the liquidation event was last night. So otherwise, the things we're looking forward to this week are going to be economic things that come out. These typically are volatile events for the United States stock market. In particular, tomorrow we're going to be getting a CPI release, the inflation data that will come out before markets in the morning tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, we're going to have the FOMC meeting. So even naturally, we're going to have volatility this week, at least historically we do. So buckle up, be prepared for a wild ride this week. And we'll take it one day at a time together like we always do. Otherwise, keep your eyes open. I'll hopefully will have a video out within an hour. I'm still in editing over on that thing right now. Maybe an hour and a half, but it is in production and should be released this morning. Will be released this morning. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Otherwise, guys, I will catch you guys all tomorrow. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you're doing all right and you survived the craziness of the 5-minute sell-off yesterday, but the markets have still continued to hold those lows since that liquidation event did take place. But all right. That's going to be it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Rob finds treasure, my brother. Still watching videos all the time, dude. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this live stream and give it a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.